My family used me like an ATM my entire life. But when they tried to dump my sister's $43,000 debt on me, something in me finally broke and I said no. I'm Theo, 30 years old. If there's one truth about my life, it's this. I've been on my own since I turned 18. No help from anyone. I worked through college, paid every cent of my tuition, and never asked my parents for anything. You'd think that kind of independence would earn you peace or at least respect. Instead, in my family, it turned me into the default fixer, the responsible one, the guy who gets a call when things go sideways, and they always go sideways. So when my mom, Lorraine, called me out of the blue one Tuesday afternoon, I knew something was wrong. She never calls just to say hi. There's always an agenda. "Hey, Theo," she said, feigning casual. "How's work? Still doing finance stuff?" She didn't care. She never had, for over a decade. She's ignored what I actually do, but I humored her. "Still in finance. Yep, what's going on?" Then came the real reason. "It's Savannah," she said. "She's in trouble." Of course, my sister Savannah. 27 was always in some kind of mess. Ever since we were kids, she's been reckless, impulsive, irresponsible, and worst of all, protected. My parents treated her like a glass ornament. If she messed up, someone else, usually me, had to sweep up the shards. She once took my car without permission and totaled it while texting. I paid the deductible and fixed everything while she cried and promised it wouldn't happen again. It did. Then there was the time I co-signed for her first apartment. 3 months in, she stopped paying rent, ghosted the landlord, and left me with a wrecked credit score. She just moved back home like nothing happened. And every single time my parents made excuses. She's just figuring things out, she needs help. But I never got that kind of grace. So when Mom said Savannah was in trouble, I didn't feel concern. I felt exhausted. "What kind of trouble?" I asked, already bracing myself. "She's racked up some debt," Mom said. $43,500. I froze. "She owes some questionable people. Theo, they're dangerous." Then she said it. "You need to help her." Not asked, not begged, just assumed. "You're doing well for yourself," she added. Like that somehow meant I owed my sister a $43,000 bailout. I let out a laugh, not because it was funny, but because I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Mom," I said, "I didn't borrow that money. Why should this be my responsibility?" Silence. Then the tone shifted. "She's your sister. Theo, family helps each other. Do you want her to get hurt? Is that what you want?" There it was, the guilt. I took a deep breath. I've helped her before, countless times. And what does she do? Blows it on designer bags and weekend getaways. She never takes responsibility because you and Dad always protect her. I'm not doing it this time. "She's struggling," Mom shot back. "She's not like you. She's not strong enough." "She's reckless," I corrected. "She borrowed money she couldn't pay back, and now she wants me to swoop in and fix it again." "She's your sister," she repeated. "No," I said firmly. "Family doesn't take advantage of each other. This isn't love, it's manipulation." Mom wouldn't let up. "If you don't help, we'll have no choice but to cut you off." That made me laugh again. "Cut me off from what? You haven't supported me in over a decade. I've already been on my own." Then I hung up. I knew that wasn't going to be the end, but I wasn't ready for just how far they'd go. After I hung up on my mom, there was silence for about a day. Then the guilt campaign began. It started small. A few texts from Mom. "I just don't understand how you can let this happen to your sister. Theo, she's your blood. Don't let her suffer." I ignored them. I didn't have the emotional bandwidth for another round of manipulation. But the messages kept coming and they got darker. "The people Savannah owes money to aren't the kind you ignore. I can't sleep at night. If something happens to her, how will you live with yourself?" Then came the voice messages. My mom has this talent sounding like she's just on the edge of tears, even when she's totally composed. "Theo," she said in one, "I don't know if Savannah's going to make it out of this if you don't help. I can't live with myself if something happens to her." It was like listening to a masterclass in emotional blackmail. But Mom wasn't alone. My dad, Marshall, who usually stayed in the background of our family's drama, decided to get involved too. He left me a voicemail that started calmly enough. "Hey son, just checking in." Then he got to the point. "Look, I know your mom can come on a bit strong, but this is serious. Savannah's in deep, and we can't fix it without you. You've always been the dependable one. Don't let us down now." That line, the dependable one. My whole life, I'd been the dependable one. The one who worked hard, kept quiet, cleaned up everyone else's disasters, and all it ever got me was more responsibility, more expectation, and zero appreciation. Dependable had become code for doormat, but it didn't stop there. They brought in the reinforcements. My Uncle Greg, who I hadn't spoken to in years, called me out of nowhere. He acted like we were best friends. "Hey Theo, long time, how's life treating you?" I knew exactly why he was calling, but I let him talk. Eventually, he got to it. You know, family's important. Savannah's struggling. Man, we've all been there. Sometimes we just need a little help. "Greg," I interrupted, "did my mom put you up to this?" He chuckled nervously. "Well, she may have mentioned it. I'm not paying her debt," I said flatly. "Thanks for calling." And just like that, I ended another conversation that should have never started. Not one person, not my mom, not my dad, not Uncle Greg ever asked how I was doing. No one even acknowledged the insanity of asking someone to cough up $43,500 for someone else's mistakes. All they said was the same thing. "She's your sister." Like those 3 words were supposed to override logic, boundaries, or basic self-respect. But then came the turning point. It happened late one night. I was sitting on the couch, trying to unwind after a long day at work, when I got a call from my bank's fraud department. Someone had attempted to access my account using forged documents. I stared at the phone in disbelief. Too perfect, too suspicious. I already knew who it was. Savannah. She had just texted me 2 days prior, "You have the money. Stop acting like it's such a big deal. Just pay it off and I'll pay you back when I can." I didn't even respond to that. But now she'd tried to steal from me. And that wasn't desperate, that was criminal. I didn't call, I didn't text. I got in my car and drove straight to her apartment. I knocked. She opened the door with a scowl. "What are you doing here?" "You tried to steal from me," I said, not bothering with greetings. She rolled her eyes. "Relax. Relax," I snapped. "You forged documents and tried to access my account. That's fraud." She shrugged, like I was overreacting. What else was I supposed to do? "You left me no choice. You refused to help me." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "No choice," I said. "You had every choice. You could have owned up to your mistakes, taken responsibility, but instead you tried to rob your own brother." She crossed her arms. "I'm not the villain here, Theo. You are. You turned your back on family." That was it. The final straw. I took a deep breath, not to calm down, but to avoid saying something I'd regret. I looked her in the eye. "I'm done," and I walked away. But I knew deep down they weren't done with me. Not yet. I didn't expect peace. Not really. After the confrontation at Savannah's apartment, I knew the storm was only beginning, and I was right. The very next day, my mom called. I didn't pick up. She left a voicemail. "Theo, your sister told me what happened. I can't believe you threatened her like that. She's struggling, and instead of helping, you're making things worse. You should be ashamed of yourself." Ashamed. They wanted me to feel ashamed after everything. I'd spent my entire adult life standing on my own, while Savannah coasted. I worked, sacrificed, and cleaned up her disasters. Now, after saying no for once, I was the villain. For a few days, things went quiet. But if there's one thing I've learned about my parents, it's this: they don't understand the word no. One evening, I came home to find their car parked in my driveway. Of course, I took a deep breath, parked behind them, and just sat there. Then I got out. My mom stepped forward the moment I got close. "This nonsense has gone on long enough," she said. "We're your parents. Savannah is your sister. This isn't how families behave." "I agree," I said, unlocking my door. "Families don't lie, steal, and manipulate, so let's not pretend yours has been perfect." I walked inside. Predictably, they followed me in. "You're just going to walk away while we're talking to you," Mom snapped. "I'm going inside to get away from the circus." Dad finally spoke. "She's your sister. Theo, she needs help." "I've heard that line enough times," I said, turning to face them. "So let me tell you something about family. Real family doesn't use one child as a doormat to protect the other. Real family doesn't expect one person to sacrifice while another runs wild without consequence. And real family doesn't commit fraud when they don't get their way." Mom's face turned red. "If you're not going to help," she said, "then we'll have no choice but to cut ties. No holidays, no birthdays, nothing." I stared at her for a long second. "Mom, I've been on my own since I was 18. You cutting me off is like firing someone who already quit." She opened her mouth to argue, but Dad placed a hand on her shoulder. That moment was a turning point for me. Every sacrifice, every time I stepped in when they wouldn't, every instance of them choosing Savannah over me, it all came rushing back like a tidal wave. I didn't yell, I didn't scream. I just walked to the door, opened it wide, and said, "Get out." Mom blinked. "Excuse me." "You heard me. This conversation is over. You're not welcome in my home anymore." They left, stunned. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel like the guilty one. I felt free. But of course, it wasn't the end. About a week later, I got a letter from a lawyer. At first, I thought it was some kind of joke. But no, my parents were threatening legal action. They claimed I had a moral obligation to support my family and were considering suing me to force me to pay Savannah's debt. I took the letter to a lawyer friend of mine. He read it, smirked, and said, "Theo, they don't have a leg to stand on. Let them try, it'll get laughed out of court." Nothing ever came of it. It was all scare tactics. But it told me everything I needed to know about how far my family was willing to go to manipulate me. That was the final nail. I went fully no-contact. I called my cousin Ryan, one of the few people in the family I actually trust, and explained everything. He was stunned. "They seriously tried to sue you." "Not yet," I said. "But they're threatening to. Just a heads up, they might start spreading lies." Ryan was solid. "Don't worry, I've got your back. Honestly, good for you. They sound toxic as hell." After that, I blocked my parents, Savannah, and anyone I knew was loyal to them. I told Ryan to only contact me if it was urgent. Otherwise, I didn't want updates. And for the first time in years, I had peace. No midnight calls, no guilt, no manipulation. Just silence. Eventually, Ryan did slip me a few updates. Apparently, my parents tried to repair their image, but most of the family saw through it. Even their usual allies got tired of hearing the same tired story. Savannah filed for bankruptcy and struggled to stay afloat. My parents were still trying to convince the world they were the victims. I wish I could say I felt sorry for them, but I didn't. They made their choices, and now they're living with the consequences. As for me, I'm finally done dancing to someone else's tune. I've got my own life now, and I refuse to be anyone's backup plan, emotional crutch, or emergency bank account ever again.